The marketplace inside the colony dome was always filled with noise. Merchants shouted to sell their goods. Children ran between the stalls. Voices echoed under the glass ceiling that showed only the pale light of distant stars. Yet on this day, the noise felt different. People were not focused on trade. They were staring at a single child who walked slowly through the crowd. She was not human. Her skin glowed faint blue, smooth like polished stone. Her hair was silver, thin, and it caught every beam of light. Most striking were her eyes. Golden and wide, they searched every face with a strange mixture of fear and hope. She looked fragile, yet there was something unshakable in the way she moved. She carried no bag, no food, no toys. Only a small piece of cloth clutched in her tiny hand. She stopped in front of a tall man who had just stepped out of a shop. Her lips trembled. In a soft voice that carried through the air, she asked, "Are you my daddy?" The man froze. His eyes widened. He glanced at her, then at the people nearby. Awkwardly, he shook his head and stepped aside. Without a word, he walked away, leaving her standing in silence. The girl did not cry. She simply turned to the next human who passed by. A woman carrying fruit. Again she asked, "Are you my daddy?" The woman gasped and hurried away, clutching her basket tightly. The child kept moving forward, repeating the same question. Every human she met heard it. Some smiled nervously. Others whispered to their friends. Some acted as if she was invisible. None gave her the answer she longed for. The crowd grew restless. Merchants stopped calling out. Children no longer laughed. Everyone watched her with uneasy eyes. An alien child asking such a question again and again was unsettling. A few guards appeared at the edge of the market, but they did not approach. They waited, curious, uncertain. The girl's steps were small, but she refused to stop. Her voice, though quiet, grew heavier each time she asked, "Are you my daddy?" The words carried sorrow, but also something else. They carried hope, as if she believed her answer was still out there. Some people whispered that she was broken. Others guessed she was part of some experiment. A few muttered that she should be taken away. But no one dared to touch her. Then she stopped in front of one man. He was not the strongest man in the colony. He was not rich or famous. He was simply there, walking with tired steps after finishing his shift at the mines. His clothes were dusty. His face was worn from long work. Yet when her golden eyes locked with his, something inside him shifted. She whispered the same question. "Are you my daddy?" The man felt his chest tighten. His breath caught. He wanted to answer no, to step aside like all the others. But his legs did not move. He knelt down slowly, so his eyes met hers at the same level. "Why do you ask this?" he said gently. His voice cracked as he spoke. The girl shook her head. Her small fingers clutched the cloth tighter. "I do not know," she whispered. "But I must ask." Her eyes filled with tears that did not fall. They shimmered in the light, making her look even more fragile. The man felt the world around him blur. The crowd, the noise, the whispers, all faded. For a moment, it was only him and this child who refused to let go of her question. The market held its breath. Everyone watched, waiting to see what he would do. He reached out slowly, careful not to frighten her. His hand hovered in the air, close to hers. "You are not alone," he said softly. His words were not an answer, but they carried warmth. The girl's lips curved into the faintest smile. It was small, trembling, yet filled with relief. She reached forward and placed her tiny hand in his. The cloth she held slipped slightly, revealing a strange mark stitched into it. A mark neither fully human nor fully alien. Gasps spread through the crowd. People leaned closer, whispering again. But the man did not hear them. He only felt the small weight of her hand against his. For the first time since she had spoken her question, the girl stopped asking. She clung to him, pressing her forehead against his chest. The man felt his heart beating faster, louder, as if it was answering for him. The guards at the edge of the market exchanged uncertain looks. The merchants murmured. Some shook their heads. Some smiled faintly. None dared to break the silence. The man stood slowly, lifting the girl with gentle arms. She rested against him, no longer asking her question. For her, the silence was the answer she needed. And for him, it was the beginning of something he could not yet understand. The market returned to its noise, but the whispers followed them. Everyone knew that something had changed. A lonely question had been asked too many times, and at last it had found a home. The man carried the girl out of the busy market, his arms steady though his heart raced. Her small head rested on his chest. Her golden eyes closed as if she had finally found peace. For a moment, it felt natural, as if she had always belonged there. Yet confusion weighed heavy on his mind. Why him? Why did she stop asking once she found him? He was no one important. He was just another worker, covered in dust and sweat from long hours in the mines. He had no family, no wealth, nothing that marked him as special. But the way she clung to him made it impossible to let go. He found a quiet bench near the water station and sat down with her. She stirred softly, opening her eyes. Her gaze met his again, and once more she whispered, "Are you my daddy?" The words shook him. He wanted to deny it again. He wanted to tell her that he was not. But when he looked into her golden eyes, the words refused to leave his lips. Instead, he asked, "What is your name, little one?" The girl tilted her head. She pressed her lips together, then shook her head slowly. "I do not know," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but it was not only sadness. It was emptiness. His chest ached. A child without a name. Without a memory. Only a single question to guide her. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Where are your parents?" he asked gently. Again she shook her head. She hugged the cloth tighter. He noticed now that the fabric was worn and torn. It looked like a piece of clothing, maybe once part of something larger. The strange marks stitched into it shimmered faintly when the light touched it. He reached toward it, but she quickly pulled it back. Her small fingers trembled, guarding it as if it were the only piece of herself she had left. The man did not press. He leaned back, staring at the sky painted across the glass dome. Stars shimmered above, cold and distant. He wondered if her real family was out there, searching for her. Or if they had abandoned her, leaving her to wander alone. The colony around them was not kind to strangers. He knew that soon the guards would come. Officials would question him. The whispers would spread faster than fire. Yet when he looked down at her, his decision grew clear. He placed a hand over her small fingers and whispered, "I will keep you safe." The girl blinked, surprised by his words. For the first time, her golden eyes softened with trust. She leaned closer against him, as if those simple words were the answer she had been searching for. But the peace did not last. A voice called from across the walkway. "You there. Step aside." Two colony guards approached. Their uniforms glinted under the lights, and their faces carried suspicion. People nearby stopped to watch, pretending to shop while keeping their eyes fixed on the scene. The taller guard pointed at the girl. "That child is not yours. Hand her over." The girl gasped and gripped the man's shirt tightly. Her body shook. Her voice broke as she whispered again, "Daddy, do not let them take me." The man's heart pounded. He stood slowly, shielding her with his body. "She is only a child," he said firmly. "She needs care, not fear." The guards exchanged looks. The shorter one stepped closer. "She is alien. She does not belong here. Give her to us. The council will decide what to do." The man's hands tightened around her small frame. He could feel her trembling. He could feel her trust. Something inside him ignited, stronger than reason. "No," he said. His voice was quiet but carried weight. "She stays with me." Gasps spread through the watching crowd. No one had ever spoken against the guards so openly. The taller guard narrowed his eyes. "You are making a mistake, Minor. Do not involve yourself in this." The man lifted his chin. "Perhaps I already have." But I will not abandon her. For a long moment, the guards stood frozen. The crowd whispered, restless. Then, perhaps sensing the attention was growing too heavy, the taller guard stepped back. This is not over, he warned. The council will hear of this. They turned and walked away, leaving a trail of silence in their path. The man's breath shook as he lowered himself back onto the bench. The girl buried her face into his chest, whispering words he almost could not hear. Thank you, Daddy. Her voice pierced him deeper than any weapon could. He had not given her that name. Yet she had chosen it. She had chosen him. And though he still did not understand why, he felt something awaken within him. A quiet promise, binding and unshakable. From that moment, he knew his life would never be the same. The next morning, the colony buzzed with restless talk. Word of the alien child and the miner had spread like fire through dry grass. In the marketplace, in the mines, in the narrow corridors of the living quarters, people whispered the same story. She asked him that question. She called him Daddy. He refused to give her up to the guards. Every retelling made the tale sound larger, more dangerous, more mysterious. Some claimed the child was cursed. Others swore she was a weapon sent to test humanity. A few whispered that she was a miracle. But no matter the version, the girl and the miner were at the heart of it. The man tried to keep life as quiet as he could. He brought the girl to his small quarters near the outer ring of the dome. His home was simple, just 2 rooms with little more than a bed, a table, and shelves of tools. Yet when the girl stepped inside, she looked around with wide eyes as if she had entered a palace. She touched the walls gently, ran her fingers over the table, and finally sat on the bed with a faint smile. She hugged the cloth she always carried and whispered, "Safe." The man felt something stir inside him. He had never thought of his home as safe. It was lonely, silent, and small. But with her there, it felt different. He asked her again if she remembered anything. A name. A family. A place where she belonged. She only shook her head. Her golden eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "I only know the question," she said quietly. "I must ask it until I find the truth." The man's heart ached. He sat beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You do not need to ask any more," he said. "Not with me." She looked at him for a long time, as if weighing his words. Then she nodded softly and leaned against his side. But outside his small home, the whispers grew louder. Neighbors avoided his door. Some left food on his step, muttering that he might need it. Others warned each other to keep away. Children dared each other to peek at the alien girl but ran off when they saw her glowing eyes through the small window. It was not only the common folk who whispered. Inside the council chamber at the heart of the colony, the leaders sat in a circle. Their faces were grim as they discussed the matter. "This child could be a threat," one counselor said. "Her presence is already dividing the people." "She clings to that miner," another replied. "Why him?" "That question must be answered." An older counselor leaned forward. His voice was low but sharp. "Do not be blind. A bond between a human and an alien child is dangerous. It could break order. It could bring conflict with her people, wherever they are. But she is only a child," a younger counselor protested. "We cannot treat her as an enemy." The chamber fell into heavy silence. Finally, the leader of the council spoke. "We will watch. We will test. If the man wishes to keep her, he will prove she is not a danger. If he fails, the choice will be taken from him." That same evening, as the man worked to cook a simple meal, he felt the weight of many eyes on him. His door carried new marks, scratches made by angry hands. He did not tell the girl. He only smiled at her, serving her food and watching as she ate with quiet joy. Later, as she lay curled on his bed, holding the cloth tightly, she whispered again, "Daddy, will they take me away?" His chest tightened. He sat beside her and brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. "Not while I breathe," he said firmly. Her golden eyes glowed in the dim light. She smiled faintly, then closed them and drifted into sleep. The man sat awake long into the night, staring at the ceiling. He could hear the distant hum of the colony, the shifting of machines, and the faint sound of voices outside. He knew the whispers would not stop. They would grow louder, stronger, sharper. But as he looked at the sleeping child, he also knew something else. He would not give her up. No matter what the colony thought. No matter what the council decided. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the colony, powerful eyes watched the small home. Eyes that saw opportunity. Eyes that planned to use the girl for more than a simple question. The man did not yet know it, but the choice he made in the market had already set him against forces far greater than he imagined. The lonely question had become the beginning of a storm. Days turned into weeks. The girl remained by the miner's side, never leaving him, never letting go of his hand when they walked through the colony. At first, people pointed and whispered. Some kept their distance. Others glared in open disapproval. Yet the man did not waver. Each time she clung to him and whispered, "Daddy," he held her closer, letting the world know she was not alone. Inside his home, life slowly took on new meaning. His quarters, once empty and silent, now echoed with soft laughter. The girl discovered joy in the simplest things. She liked to sit by the window and count the ships that rose from the launch pads. She liked to listen to the hum of the pipes and pretend they were voices singing. She even helped him with small tasks, carrying tools and asking endless questions about the machines he fixed. The man answered patiently. Each time she asked, he felt a warmth he had not known before. He had lived years buried in work, eating alone, sleeping alone, speaking to no one but himself. Now, each day began with her smile and ended with her head resting against his chest. One evening, the colony lights dimmed to mimic night. The man finished his meal and found her sitting quietly by the window. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the distant stars beyond the dome. She was holding the piece of cloth again, turning it over and over in her hands. He sat beside her. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. She hugged the cloth closer and whispered, "Why do you stay with me?" The question struck him deeply. He looked at her small face, at the sadness hidden behind her fragile smile. He took a slow breath. "Because no one should walk this universe alone," he said. Her eyes widened. She blinked quickly as if trying to hold back tears. Then she leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Then I will stay too," she whispered. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. It was not blood. It was not proof. It was not law. It was the bond of heart. A choice to belong to each other, even when the world outside refused to understand. But the world outside was not silent. The Colony Council had not forgotten. Nor had the guards. At night, the man sometimes noticed shadows near his door. Once, he found a message scratched into the wall. "She is not yours." Another time, he heard footsteps following him through the market. He tried to hide these things from her. He wanted her to feel safe. Yet the pressure grew heavier each day. The colony demanded answers. The council demanded proof. They wanted to know what she was and why she had chosen him. One night, the knock on his door came louder than before. He opened it to find 3 officials standing outside. Their clothes were fine, their faces stern. "The council requests your presence," one of them said. "Bring the child." The girl's small hand tightened around his. Her body trembled. She whispered, "Daddy, I am afraid." He knelt down, brushing his hand over her silver hair. "Do not be afraid. I will not leave you." The officials led them through the colony. People lined the walkways, staring, whispering, pointing. Some sneered. Some pitied. Some looked with wonder. The girl kept her face buried against his chest, refusing to look up. Inside the council chamber, torches flickered against cold stone walls. The leaders sat in a half circle, their eyes sharp. At the center, the council leader leaned forward. "You claim this child as your own," he said. "But the people demand proof. We must know the truth. If she is not yours, she must be taken. If she is a danger, she must be contained." The man held the girl close. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded. She is only a child. She asked for a father? I answered. That is all the proof she needs. Murmurs spread through the council. Some shook their heads. Others leaned forward with curiosity. The leader's gaze hardened. Then you will submit her to a test. Her blood will tell us the truth. If you refuse, she will be taken by force. The girl gasped. She clung to him tighter, her golden eyes wide with fear. Daddy, do not let them hurt me, she whispered. The man's heart burned with anger, but he kept his voice calm. If you test her, I will remain with her. She will not face this alone. The leader studied him, then nodded. So be it. Tomorrow, the test will begin. The officials led them back to his home. The girl was silent, her body trembling. When they were alone, she whispered again. Will you leave me, Daddy? He knelt before her, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. His eyes met hers. Never, he said. Not while I live. She threw her arms around his neck and held him tightly. For the first time, she wept openly, her tears hot against his skin. He closed his eyes, holding her as if the universe itself might try to tear her away. Outside, the colony waited for the test. But inside his heart, the choice had already been made. He would fight for her, no matter the cost. The bond of heart was stronger than fear. The day of the test arrived too soon. The colony buzzed with tension. People crowded outside the council's testing hall, waiting for news. Some came out of fear. Others came out of curiosity. Whispers filled the air like restless birds. Inside, the room was cold and bright. Machines lined the walls, humming with steady power. At the center stood a long table made of steel. The girl looked at it with wide, frightened eyes. She pressed herself against the man's side, her small fingers digging into his shirt. 2 council guards stepped forward. Place the child on the table, one ordered. The man tightened his arms around her. His voice was calm but firm. I will stay with her. Do what you must, but I will not leave her side. The council leader gave a slow nod. Very well. But if she resists, the test will continue by force. The girl shook her head. Daddy, please, she whispered, her voice breaking. Tears glimmered in her golden eyes. The man knelt down and brushed her silver hair away from her face. I am here, he said softly. I will not let them hurt you. Trust me. Her trembling slowed, though fear still clung to her like a shadow. He lifted her gently and placed her on the cold table. The machines hummed louder. A metal arm extended, holding a slender needle that gleamed in the light. The girl gasped, clutching his hand with all her strength. Do not leave me! He bent close, letting her grip him as tightly as she could. I am here, he whispered again. Look at me, not at them. The needle pricked her skin. She winced, her small body tensing, but she did not cry out. A vial filled slowly with shimmering liquid, not fully red, not fully blue, but something between. Her blood glowed faintly, casting a strange light across the machine. Gasps echoed through the hall. The crowd leaned forward, murmuring in disbelief. Even the council members shifted uneasily in their seats. The machine whirred, analyzing. Symbols flashed on the screen. At last, the result appeared in bold letters. Hybrid. The words spread like thunder. Hybrid. A child of 2 worlds. Human and alien. Not one, not the other. Both. The girl's golden eyes searched the man's face. Fear and hope warred inside her. What does it mean, Daddy? She whispered. He squeezed her hand, though his own heart was pounding. It means you are special, he said softly. It means you belong to both. But the machine had not finished. More data scrolled across the screen. A second word appeared. Match. The hall fell silent. The man frowned, confused. Match? He repeated. The council leader stood, his face pale. The test shows her blood carries human strands. And those strands match yours. The crowd erupted in shouts. Impossible! Some cried. He is her father! Others gasped. Accusations and disbelief filled the chamber like a storm. The man stood frozen, holding the girl close. His thoughts swirled. He had never seen her before that day in the market. He had no memory, no connection. Yet the machine spoke clearly. His DNA was part of hers. The girl buried her face in his chest. Her small voice shook as she whispered, "You are my daddy." His arms tightened around her. He felt the truth settle into his soul. Whatever mystery bound them together, whatever power or fate had woven their blood, the bond was real. The council leader raised his hand for silence. "This is beyond our understanding," he declared. "The child is both alien and human. If her blood carries his strands, then the question is no longer whether he is her father. The question is how this came to be." Suspicion rippled through the room. Some looked at the man with awe. Others with fear. A few with hatred. One counselor rose. "This changes everything. If humans and aliens can create life together, then what does that mean for us? For them? For the balance of power?" Another counselor shook his head. "It means danger. She could be a weapon. He could be a traitor." The man stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "She is not a weapon. She is not danger. She is a child. My child." The girl lifted her head, her golden eyes shining with tears. She nodded fiercely, clinging to him with all her strength. The crowd erupted again. Some cheered. Some cursed. The guards tightened their grips on their weapons. The council leader's face hardened. "Enough. This matter is far from settled. Until we understand the truth, the child and the man will remain under watch. Their bond may unite us, or it may destroy us. Time will decide." The man lifted the girl into his arms. She pressed her head against his shoulder, whispering over and over, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." He held her close as they left the hall, walking through the sea of staring eyes. He felt the weight of suspicion pressing down on him, but also the strength of something unbreakable. The test had spoken. Her blood was his blood. Her fate was his fate. And from that moment forward, nothing could separate them. The news of the test spread across the colony faster than fire. By nightfall, every corridor, every market stall, every gathering hall echoed with the same words. "Hybrid. Match. His blood is in her veins." Some celebrated the revelation. They whispered that the child was proof of unity between species. They called her a miracle, a sign of hope. Others were filled with fear. They claimed she was unnatural, a danger that could bring ruin. They spoke of curses, of weapons, of forbidden science. The colony split into two voices, both growing louder, both pressing down on the man and the girl. Wherever they went, eyes followed. Some looked with warmth. Others with hatred. Inside his small home, the man tried to shield her from the noise. He cooked meals. He told her stories from his childhood, stories of the earth he barely remembered. She listened with wide golden eyes, leaning close, hanging on every word. For her, his voice was comfort. For him, her laughter was salvation. Yet the whispers still reached them. When he went to the market, merchants hesitated to serve him. When he walked the corridors, people stepped aside, murmuring behind his back. Some shouted openly, "Monster! Alien lover! Traitor!" The girl always clung to his hand, her face pressed against his arm. Each insult made her tremble, but she never let go. One evening, the council called another gathering. The chamber was filled with colonists, guards, and officials. The man stood with the girl in his arms. She buried her face against him, refusing to look at the crowd. The council leader rose. His voice was sharp. "The test has shown what we cannot deny. The child is both human and alien. The minor's blood runs in her veins. This truth divides our people. Some see her as a miracle, others as a threat. Tonight we decide her future." Murmurs filled the chamber. The leader raised a hand, and silence fell. "If the girl remains here, she may bring danger. If she leaves, we may lose the chance to understand what she represents. And if she stays with him, her bond may challenge our laws. The man stepped forward, his voice clear. She is not a weapon. She is not a curse. She is a child. She asked one question. She wanted love. And I gave her that answer. Nothing more, nothing less. The girl lifted her head. Her golden eyes shimmered as she whispered, Daddy, do not let them take me. Her voice carried through the hall like a spark in dry wood. The crowd gasped. Some softened, moved by her innocence. Others hardened, angered by her defiance. One counselor rose. Listen to her. She is only a child. We cannot punish her for existing. If her bond with him is real, then perhaps we should honor it. Another counselor shouted back. And what if she grows into power we cannot control? What if her bloodline brings destruction? Do you not see the danger? Voices clashed. Arguments broke out. The chambers shook with division. Guards tightened their grips on weapons, ready for chaos. The man held the girl closer, raising his voice above the storm. You fear her because she is different. But look at her. She is small. She is scared. She only wants a family. If you call that dangerous, then you have forgotten what it means to be human. The hall fell silent. His words echoed, hanging heavy in the air. The girl pressed her forehead to his chest, whispering again, Daddy, do not leave me. The council leader's gaze softened for the first time. He spoke slowly, weighing each word. The bond between them cannot be ignored. It is not law. It is not reason. It is heart. And perhaps that is what frightens us most. The council did not give a final answer that night. They dismissed the gathering with heavy silence. The people left divided, their eyes lingering on the man and the girl as they walked out. Back in his home, the girl sat on the bed, clutching the cloth she always carried. Her golden eyes were filled with questions she did not ask. The man knelt before her. Do not be afraid, he said. They will not break us. She leaned forward and wrapped her arms around his neck. I only want you, she whispered. His arms tightened around her. And you have me, he said. For a moment, the world outside did not exist. For a moment, there was only the bond between them, stronger than fear, stronger than law. Yet in the shadows of the colony, others plotted. Some feared the bond. Some wanted to use it. Powerful hands moved in secret, preparing to test how far love could stand against fear. The man did not know what awaited him. But as he held the girl, he knew one truth with absolute certainty. He would fight every whisper, every law, every shadow. He would fight the whole colony if he had to. Because love had chosen him. And fear would not take her away. The days after the council meeting were heavy with silence. The colony stood divided. Some whispered prayers of hope when the girl passed by, believing she was a sign of unity. Others spat on the ground, cursing her as an omen of ruin. Fear and love clashed in every corridor, every corner of the dome. The man felt the weight of it pressing on his shoulders. Yet each time he looked at the girl, each time she smiled or whispered, Daddy, the burden grew lighter. She was his answer. She was his reason. Nothing outside his door mattered more than the bond between them. But the colony would not stay silent forever. On the fourth night, while the dome's lights dimmed to mimic the stars, the sound of boots echoed outside his home. He rose quickly, shielding the girl as the door burst open. A group of men stormed in, faces hard with fear and anger. She is not one of us, one shouted. She must be removed. The girl cried out, clutching his arm. Daddy! The man stood tall, placing himself between her and the intruders. His voice shook with fury. She stays with me. You will not touch her. The men advanced. One reached for the child. In that instant, the man's fist clenched, his heart roaring like fire. He swung with desperate strength, driving the attacker back. Another lunged, but the girl's golden eyes flashed, glowing brighter than before. For a brief moment, the room filled with a strange light, as if the stars themselves had descended. The intruders froze, fear etched into their faces. They stumbled back, whispering about curses and powers they did not understand. Then, one by one, they fled into the night. Silence returned. The girl trembled, burying her face against him. "Why do they hate me?" she whispered. He lifted her into his arms, holding her close. "Because they are afraid," he said softly. "But I am not afraid. And I never will be." The next morning, the council gathered again. The colony demanded answers after the night's attack. Some cried for punishment. Others begged for mercy. The chamber was filled with shouting, anger, and fear. The man stepped forward, the girl in his arms. His voice carried above the chaos. "You see her as a threat because she is different. But look at her. She is only a child. She asked one question. She wanted love. That is all." The girl lifted her head. Her golden eyes swept the chamber. In a small, trembling voice she spoke. "I only wanted a daddy. And I found him." The hall grew silent. Even the hardest faces softened at her words. The council leader leaned forward, his gaze heavy. "You defied the guards. You defied fear. You chose love when others chose hate. Perhaps that is what makes you her true father. Not blood. Not law. Choice." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded. Some still shook their heads. But the balance had shifted. Hearts had been touched. The leader spoke again. "You may leave this place. The colony will not hold you. But know this. Your bond will be tested by more than us. The universe itself will test you." The man bowed his head, then lifted the girl higher in his arms. "Then let it test us. She is mine, and I am hers." The crowd parted as he walked out, the girl clinging tightly to him. Beyond the gates of the colony, the stars stretched wide and endless. For the first time, he felt no chains. No whispers. Only the path ahead. The girl pressed her face against his chest. Her voice was soft, almost a breath. "Are you really my daddy?" He stopped. He looked down at her, his heart swelling with emotion. Slowly he smiled. "Yes. I am." Her golden eyes shimmered with tears. She buried her face against him, her arms wrapping tightly around his neck. For the first time, she no longer looked lost. She no longer needed to ask. Together they stepped into the unknown. A man who had once been nothing more than a miner. A child who had once wandered with a single question. Now they were bound, not by blood alone, but by choice, by love, and by something greater than either of them could understand. The colony would remember them as a story of fear and hope. But for the man and the girl, it was simpler than that. She had asked her question to every human she met. And in the end, only one had given her the answer. He was her father. The father of two worlds.